I played 222 games of Riot's new 2v2v2v2 game mode. Is a lie. That's because I've played 222 games of Riot's new 2v2v2v2 game mode twice. Now, I'm going to be giving you 22 tips from beginner to advanced to get you started in winning right away. But this guide assumes you have some basic knowledge of Riot's new game mode, so if you haven't checked out their guide, watched some of my 2v2 videos, or played a few games yourself, then write the URL of this video onto your forehead with a marker so you're able to find it later once you do. And if being a guy who's devoted hundreds of hours to playing a game mode that isn't out yet doesn't qualify me as mentally ill enough to deliver you a quality guide, on screen are some more relevant credentials. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Health plants are by far the most important objective to secure in 2v2 Arena. It's kind of the only objective. So we got 6 plant tips for you. Using your ultimate early or right before plants spawn is generally the best strategy. It allows you to more effectively fight for control over what is an unbelievably OP resource, but it also means that if you win, you'll get your ult cooldown back anyway, because the plants not only give a heal and shield, but lower all your cooldowns. Don't forget that even when the fire closes in, plants will still be active or may respawn soon, so instead of panicking, run to the nearest plant to outlast your opponent if you don't think you'll win.
Let's go! He tried to heal up the plant!
If you're a champion with fast auto attacks or auto attack resets, be aggressive early and save your reset to secure the plant hits. You can use this for a bigger burst of early tempo rather than using that ability on an enemy, and it allows you to play very aggressively from the start moving forward. As a more general strategy, controlling choke points around plants is very important. Familiarize yourself with the map and where plants spawn. Have a plan for where you will be kiting to each fight, and try to fight in areas that will give you control of all or the majority of the plants after winning. But here's an advanced strategy that I see almost no one doing. If your opponent realizes that they can't contest the plant and concedes it to you before it spawns, instead of taking the plant for yourself when you don't need it, sometimes it's advisable to leave it up. Use it later to fall back on, or take 1 or 2 hits for yourself to heal up and then leave the third there so there's no chance of the opponent getting more than you in the case of a respawn. Think of it this way, if you get 2, worst case scenario, they can only get the 1 that you still leave there. So hold parts of the map and use the shield that the plants give you for when the time is right. And here's the last plant tip. They're so powerful that even when your enemy is 1 auto away from death, autoing the plant first is generally more advisable than autoing the player that the auto attack will kill. This is because if they get the plant, 99 times out of 100, that auto won't kill them. The exception to this rule is very late game if you're a strong auto attack champion, or you're against an enemy who attacks so fast that you know you won't even get 1 stack of the plant by the time they get 3, so it's better not to waste an auto. Feel it out and do what's right with this in mind. We'll talk a bit more about advanced strategies, including more plant outplays using the blast cones a bit later. But if you're enjoying the guide so far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more 2v2 arena content. Now back to the video. Augments are a powerful way to build your character, but they are semi-random. But did you know that you can wait until the last second to select your augment to try and catch your opponent off guard? This can be especially game-winning if it's a high-impact augment that has a unique effect, like Castle or Vanish. Watch this clip as an example. I'm gonna catch him off guard with Vanish and win the game with it. Let's wait till the last second. They won't even know what hit him. Got it. All right, here we go.
Oops.
Swin. You only get 2 rerolls per game, however, so try to be flexible with your build. Don't break the bank going for a specific augment unless you know it's something you desperately need to not get eliminated. Generally, it's better to save your rerolls to counteract bad RNG than it is to force good RNG. Just be flexible and go something that may be a 7 or 8 out of 10 for your character's build, and save your rerolls for when you get 3 out of 10 augments instead of rolling for 10 out of 10s each turn. Just like augments, it's wise to wait until the last second to purchase items too, to give yourself the most amount of time to see what the enemy team has bought so you can itemize accordingly. This also will give them as little time to react to you buying a high-impact item like Zhonya's Hourglass or Mercurial or QSS that may win you the game. It goes without saying that you need to build items to counter the teams you're up against, but I will do this in every phase of the game for each individual team I'm against. Check your opponents at the top of the screen in between each round and decide whether it's worth itemizing to counter them. Careful though, because if you think you can win against, say, a double mage team without stacking a ton of magic resist, or more importantly, you think another team will beat them, sometimes it's a good idea to itemize normally and then play for first. You should be thinking about this every round. Also, did you know that the Guardian's starter item counts as a legendary? That means when you acquire your mythic, you receive the bonus stats from these items, which only cost you 1,000 gold. But don't get baited into selling your Guardian's item too early unless you really need it for that item that's going to win you the game. Again, like a Hourglass or a QSS. Generally, it's better to wait and hold your starter until 6 items until you can replace it with a better legendary. And one last thing related to items that I want to talk about is a little concept I like to call threat juggling, which basically means if someone on your team is the obvious target to go for every match, say like a squishy target, you should build more damage to encourage enemies to attack you. If you're getting ignored, you have no pressure. More pressure is greater than more survivability, since pressure equates to getting plants, which increases your survivability. So generally, it's better to build damage with your items and play aggressively than it is to build tanky, unless you are going for an Outlast strategy. But there are different strategies you can go where you can literally survive till the fire and then some and try to win in the fire. So some champions that can do this are Karma and Zac, but this may change in the future. Just be aware of that strategy and, hey, maybe try it out in your own games, or don't. Please don't, actually. No one wants to play against that.
Wait a sec. Passive, let's go!
2v2 has a variety of different stage hazards in the form of neutral champions, including Samira, Naafiri, Pyke, Lux, and Sett. But Sett is the only champion out of these who can be attacked. If you bring him to 0 health, he'll aim an attack towards enemy players. So, if you don't know the locations of enemies on the map, finish off Sett's health bar and he will point you in the direction that they're hiding. But did you also know that since you can attack Sett, you may not only benefit from lifesteal to heal yourself, but you can stand behind him to block enemy skill shots and, most importantly, stack passive abilities and augments on him like Vygar's Phenomenal Evil. You can do this all round, so if you kill one opponent, stay alive and keep getting free stacks off this Sett before you kill the other. The Naafiri hazard, on the other hand, will triple target any player who steps in her patrol cone. But what many people don't know is that they can be body blocked, so you can run behind enemies as it triggers on you to make them take damage instead. Most beginners will use blast cones as an escape or to get health plants, but try to make these outplays to win future games. If you're fearful of being hard engaged on, stand on the nearest blast cone and have you or your teammate activate it as the enemy jumps in to survive the burst. Many Rangars will think twice before ulting you. Some abilities like Warwick ult may even be interrupted this way, even if your team doesn't have hard CC. We all know about activating blast cones to move enemies to a more favorable position, but a far more situational tip is attacking blast cones to deny both teams the plant entirely. Okay, I get this heal for myself now. You'll want to do this sometimes if you have an ability that can go over walls and the enemy team does not. That way they have to walk all the way around and you can always chase or escape when you need to. If you're playing a scaling comp, some team comps early game are straight unbeatable. But don't fret. If you know a team is going to be tough, focus on getting at least one kill to secure you and your teammate each 350 gold. Sometimes this may mean changing your strategy entirely or doing what I call playing to lose. Here's an example. If you're playing Yuumi Singed, early on your champions just don't have enough damage to secure kills on most champions. So instead of doing what the comp normally does late game, which is spread your poison on both enemies and run away over and over, change your strategy to focus on maximizing damage on one target. Focus more on auto attacks, going all out to pressure that one target through early flash usage and aggressive plays. But most importantly, as a general rule, saving key abilities for denying health plants on that target. So in Singed's case, save your fling for when the plant comes up. I highly recommend getting in voice chat with your 2v2 partner. But for all you masochists out there, if you decide to go solo queue, go for augments that boost your raw stats rather than giving your team utility, like Castle, or Chauffeur, which attaches you to them. Things that require coordination have significantly diminished value when you can't coordinate, obviously. And just a few last bonus tips from my experiences playing. Be sure to read up on the new items, and before you start playing, build a team comp that is, most importantly, flexible and has many different ways to deal damage so you're never hard countered. I hope you all enjoyed this guide. There are a ton of tips I didn't have room for, and more I'm sure I'll learn along the way in the future. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out my Twitch for live 2v2v2v2 gameplay. See ya!